Detlef, thank you for being so patient. So as I said right at the beginning, you've been around digital innovation for a very long time. And you and I have been talking about sandboxes and can they apply everywhere? Can you do general purpose AI sandboxing, or does it have to be application specific? I'd be very grateful for your comments in the light of your own experience on the debate we've had so far, and what is it we're missing in terms of making this take off quickly and be a success for Europe? Detlef.
Yeah, I would like to phrase my answer to your question around the incentive and disincentives to participate in sandboxes. So one, I think it was Chandrima who was saying partnership is one of the incentives to participate. And this is true, but the problem here is that there are not a sufficient number of AI sandboxes that can be handled by the regulators. So there's a kind of capacity problem. And as Angeliki was saying, there's a kind of already an incentive to start with sandboxes with partners. So obviously Meta has assembled partners, and Dragos was also saying about the kind of civil society initiative to estimate and audit a bias. So those partnerships develop without an AI sandbox. So obviously an AI sandbox is not the answer to everything, but it could be a contribution. Another, and I think the most important incentive is probably to understand the complexity of the AI regulation. And so this would be probably very helpful for participants to plow through all those kind of obligations and side references which you have in this AI Act. And for bigger companies, therefore, the AI sandbox is probably a way to show we are an ethical, responsible company. So I quite honestly see the benefits more for the small and medium-sized companies than for the bigger companies. The bigger companies can do this kind of project by themselves. They don't need help to go through the complexity of this. They will use AI sandboxes as a showcase for we are ethical. And this is the zeitgeist of these days. It's no longer about competitiveness, it's about ethics. And therefore, for the small and medium-sized companies, it's much more important. And luckily, the regulation has this kind of chapter which obliges the member states to do something in favor of SMEs. But the reality is very often, normally, those kind of programs that are supposed to support SMEs are very heavy in themselves. And SMEs, they want quick results and they want to go forward. And they will not necessarily rely on government support. So this is another downside of this. The advantage, of course, is also that you don't have to fear any fines if you act in good faith, as the regulation says, but you still are liable. So there's no exemption from liability. So this is, if you want, this is the positive incentive side. But there are also disincentives to participate. One of them is additional costs. So instead of doing this according to your market needs, etc., you would have to follow a number of steps. And so to help to the complexity of the regulation, you add a complexity of the AI sandboxes. And this is what is in the regulation is already quite a long list. And then, of course, you will have the implementing act. And the implementing act will stipulate all kinds of things, what you need to do in order to submit your proposal and so on and so forth, in order to have a harmonized, which is good, a harmonized approach across Europe. Here, the logic is clear, but the danger, and therefore my plea, unfortunately Dragos is gone, would be careful that you don't over-regulate AI sandboxes, because they are just about to make the complexity of the regulation less complex. So if you add an AI sandbox with a lot of regulation, you just kill your own initiative, if you like. Another disincentive is business secrets. So the question is, of course, what kind of sandbox is it? So is it like we want to test a bit how we can get biases in our data sets under control? Yes, of course, you can share the data, you can give open access, you can involve civil societies. But if you really want to have a competitive product on the market, you don't want to share your algorithm. You don't want to share a lot of other things. So the incentives will be, or the AI sandbox will be rather biased towards this kind of, yes, we want to test certain kind of exercises where, because and civil society can be helpful. I also want to warn, and you see, Robert, I'm a little bit on the side to put some water into the wine after all this kind of positive and welcoming kind of comments. One of the problems with civil societies I have in my own experience is they are functionaries. They do not represent necessarily the society or etc. They have their own interests. And therefore, I would warn to equalize the interests of individuals with the interest of civil society organizations. You should treat civil society organizations as they are, lobbyists. Yeah. So this kind of, let's say, bringing them into a kind of holy state, I would warn against. They should be involved, yes, but treat them as they are. And so this rounds up a little bit my comments on this. And with a final comment, I think there is an interesting other initiative in the AI Act, and this is the testing in real-world conditions. And so the companies have the choice to go through the AI sandboxes or through the testing in the real-world conditions. And I think the testing in the real-world conditions are much more interesting for companies than the AI sandbox. So I think there will be probably a kind of dichotomy between the AI sandboxes and the testing. On the one hand, you will in the AI sandbox test this kind of societal biases, the discrimination facts, where you work with civil societies and so on and so forth, on the one hand. And the testing will be rather for products which are placed on the market, because here you don't need to open up your algorithms or anything else. You just have to be under the control of the market surveillance authority in order to test the deployment of your solution, of your product. So I think this kind of interplay between the two will be very interesting to solve. So first of all, it's a very positive thing to have AI sandboxes and this real testing markets, but please don't over-regulate this.